Last September, you launched the new browser, Google Chrome. And we all asked, why do we need another browser? And then in July, you announced Chrome OS, and it became a lot clearer where you were going. Of course, Michael Arrington called it right in the beginning, but yeah, you were clearly thinking about the browser as more than just a browser. So can you tell us, for starters, how is Chrome the browser doing, and then tell us where you're going with Chrome OS.
Good. Thanks, Tim. It's great to be here. So Chrome has been doing very well for us. We launched it roughly about a year ago. We recently announced that it crossed 30 million active users, and these are people who use Chrome as the primary browser. If you just count the total number of users of Chrome, it's much higher. So the traction has been very strong. We've seen a lot of growth since then.
Yeah, and that's primarily Windows.
Primarily Windows.
Yeah.
We have the Mac and Linux versions coming out soon. So the key goal when we did Chrome, the insight was that when most browsers were first designed, the web was just static web pages, HTML pages. The world has moved on since then. You have apps like Gmail, and if you look at newer apps like Google Wave, these are complex web applications. So we really rethought the browser to be pretty much a modern operating system for those web applications. And the core way we approached it was speed, simplicity, and security, the three main things we focused on. The features are those web apps. So we didn't try to build features in the browser. We tried to make the browser very simple, very fast, very easy to use, safe, and get out of your way. That's resonated really well.
So this future of web apps, in some sense, you start imagining so systems without traditional operating systems. You start everything as a web app. So that ties you very closely to sort of netbooks. Paul was just saying that netbooks are starting to become the primary computer for people. So does this mean that you're on a collision course with Windows, and we're going to see the end of Windows if Google triumphs?
I think what we are seeing is a tremendous innovation in personal computing once again, I think, which is great. Browsers are suddenly hot again, for the last couple of years. And I think operating systems are too. If you look at the mobile space, there's tremendous amount of excitement around Android and all the newer operating systems. But I think on the personal computing side, there hasn't been other choices for a long time. And most of the operating systems today were designed before the web existed. So today, your browser is a bolted-on icon on top of an operating system. We really want to flip that around. If I look at my behavior, and it is true for a lot of users out here, you spend most of your time on the web today, and that amount of time has been increasing consistently. Within Google, since we use a lot of Google apps, I never, ever open anything other than my browser, right?
Yeah, so although increasingly we see another trend on the mobile phone, which is of native apps there, and you obviously got another operating system play there on the mobile phone. How do you reconcile those two? Is it a horse race inside Google? Is it, we're going to have this one on phones and this one on netbooks? How do you think about?
It's a good question. Part of what we are doing is we are doing both as open source. So the goal with both our efforts is to get free, great open source software stacks out there. And I think the amount of innovation you see on top of that would be amazing. We are taking a different view, which is we are focused on the web. So we aren't focused on phones. And when you look at larger form factors like netbooks, the browser is what matters. So we're really trying to bring that model to computers. And web apps are our core platform. The only platform we expose is you write something that works in a browser. It works in Chrome OS. In the phone, you have a lot of form factor constraints, and it's very tough to make everything work within the browser, which is why you see a lot of other kinds of app ecosystems. But I think once you go to larger form factors, just being able to run it in a browser is more than enough. In a phone, Yelp.com, Yelp is an app, but on a browser, it's just a URL you go to. Right.
So that would argue, though, that there's some real weaknesses in the browser model for certain kinds of apps, that you do need certain kinds of native capabilities.
I think it's a trend. You are seeing, independently, we are also pushing the mobile web very, very hard. So if you look at the latest version of Gmail on phones running through a browser, it's very capable, very fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's a trend coming up as well. So you will see that mobile web is also exploding. So I think it's a question of time.
So when you call Chrome OS an operating system, that's a little bit, it's actually a little bit like Windows 3.1, which was really a window layer on top of DOS. You're really, in some ways, a window layer on top of Linux. And so how accessible is the Linux underneath, and what does that do to the model in which you say Chrome OS is really the only, is the only framework for applications?
Yeah, so we describe Chrome at a simple technical level. We describe it as, Chrome OS is Chrome on top of Linux with a new windowing system.
That's why the name.
That's why the name.
Yeah.
But in terms of a computing paradigm, I think it's pretty different, and maybe I can take a minute or two to explain this. So in Chrome OS, Chrome is at the center of your experience. Every app you deal with is a web app. So as a user, you don't install software. You don't maintain software. If you look at computers, I think a lot of us have gotten used to, we cope up with this. If your car did what computers do to you today, which is every 1,000 miles they say, I need to tune myself. Can I stop? Can I tune myself? Most people wouldn't accept it. We all do that with computers. So in our model, users don't install any binaries on the system. They don't manage software. They don't manage data. Everything is in the cloud. You have it cached for latency reasons. But I can take your computer, use Gmail. You can take my computer and use Gmail. And we want all of computing to work that way. You should be able to take a Chrome OS netbook, log in, get back your Windows, get back your state, and go. So
but the fact is, if you look at Firefox as another browser that in many ways acts as a platform, it's built a huge ecosystem of add-ins, and those add-ins have actually introduced many of the same kinds of problems that you had in traditional operating systems: memory leaks, conflicting applications that are don't work as well as you expected, and everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else, saying, "Oh, it's really not my fault. It must be that add-in you loaded." Are you not allowing that kind of add-in ecosystem for Chrome?
So, Chrome extensions is coming up. We do everything in the open, so you can follow it there. But with our extensions model, we have tried to, again, take most of our extensions are written in HTML and JavaScript. So, and they run in their own process. So to the extent they do something bad, you can kill that process off.
Yeah.
They don't have access to a lot of the system resources, which native apps do. So we thought about this a lot. So we worked hard. The whole goal is to have things which work very, very fast and very, very simple. And I think we can get at a lot of functionality users want. Gmail or Yahoo Mail is a great example. I mean, we all use webmail today. 15 years, most of us had Outlook and PSD files, and we were moving it around and carrying it around. Today we use email. You don't think about where your email is, and it works well.
So what about offline use? Clearly for your application, you built Gears. Developers are developers going to have to think a lot more about the online-offline switch? Is this going to be a big driver for Gears, or is there some other strategy for how web developers will think about offline applications?
Our goal with Gears was only to help drive capabilities in the browser. So it wasn't to drive Gears. So the first capability we introduced was offline, but we've been working very actively with the HTML5 community to make those same capabilities built into browsers. So you will see HTML5 offline capabilities appear in all modern browsers. You will see it in Safari, you'll see it in Firefox, you'll see it in Chrome, etc.
So you're really trying to drive these capabilities
into the browser.
Eventually into Internet Explorer even.
Sure, that's our hope. I mean, we would love to see these capabilities in IE as well. I think it'll help everyone. So.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have any questions from the audience, but if you do, come up to the mics. Okay, I see one right here. No, you're not at the mic? Oh, sorry, I can't see you, Duncan. Okay, great. All right, well, the light is difficult from here, so I'll check in a minute. Are there any issues in terms of that whole standardization as we move towards HTML5? Are there any areas that aren't moving as fast as you'd like, where we're not going to get the standardization to deliver that next generation of web apps?
I mean, the ideal world, at least the way I see it, and a lot of us see it at Google, is we would like to see everything run within a browser. But for that, you need web apps to do everything that native apps can do. And I think there's a whole set of things we are talking about here. there is a lot of momentum, but it takes time because you need a set of.
Well, yeah, it really takes time. Mark Andreessen started talking about this in 1995.
That's right.
You know?
And so it takes a long time. But to tell, but looking back, in some ways we've come a long way.
Yeah,
if you
we
look
have,
at what has
absolutely.
happened in the web, you look at apps like Twitter or Google Wave or all the innovation that's coming up, these are all being written on the web. So I think.
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot of the Twitter clients, again, are they're either native clients on the phone. They're clients written in Adobe Air. They're really not necessarily all in that web frame.
Sure. I'd look at Adobe Air as a part of the web because it is Flash and WebKit and so on. So in some ways, I think of it as the web. But it is an evolution. You can take capabilities like 3D, which are some of the hardest capabilities to get working in the browser. So I do think it is an evolution. But to us, the trend lines are clear. If I look at just as a percentage of time people spend on the computer in the browser versus other things, the trend has been going only one way for a long, long time. And I think it will only increase over time. So very optimistic there. A lot of, with Chrome OS, the bet is that netbooks are nothing but, in many ways, they're very mobile personal computers. People want to take them on the go. There's a lot of innovation on the semiconductor front. People are trying to reduce power consumption a lot. So you're soon going to have netbooks which are very mobile. People can carry them around all day. You can walk back to your hotel or your home and charge them at the night.
Yeah, and well, there's also just special use cases. I was talking with a police chief the other day who said, I'm tired of these sort of $4,000, ruggedized, laptops. Get me a cheap netbook, and if my cop spills his coffee on it, we'll give him a new one. There's definitely that sense of the disposable computer. But what about hardware innovation and special purpose devices? Certainly one of the exciting things about Android is not just the phone form factor, but other kinds of devices, whether it's ebook readers potentially, or I sort of see a proliferation of possible devices. Is that in the future for Chrome as well? Do you see it on other kinds of devices besides netbooks?
It's a very good question. We're going to focus in 2010 for the holiday season of 2010 to target at what we call what look like netbooks today. So these are clamshell form factors with a keyboard and a touchpad. But if I look at, I was in Taiwan recently, and there's tremendous amount of innovation, entrepreneurial activity going on. And for a lot of those people, they need a software stack to put it on there, right? And the fact that we are making available what will be a very, very functional, free open stack, I have no doubt, just like with Android, people will take it and try it on a bunch of things. So I think you're going to see a wave of innovation across many form factors. You go to Taiwan, people show you devices where they completely open it out into a book and you can read them, right? So there's tremendous amount of innovation, and I think what is lacking are good software alternatives from an operating system standpoint to put on there. And I think...
So as you say software stack, it's sounding more like, well, people are going to be needing to access the lower levels of that operating system anyway, so it isn't just a web operating system.
Well, it depends on how you view it. Palm introduced a web operating system too, right? So all apps need are capabilities. You can still expose these capabilities through a browser. If you look ahead, we have technologies we are working on like native client. It's in its early stages, but where you can run traditional C++, untrusted code safely in a browser. And which will give access to a lot of those capabilities.
So if we look forward, what you're really seeing is a very, very different landscape as we've moved into the web era, and now we're really batting cleanup on the PC era where the models are changing, and we're really going to start to move away from the expectation that computers look like they have for the last...
I think so. At least that's what we're betting on. So, definitely.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I see now we're out of time.
Okay.
But thank you very much, and we'll keep